So, welcome everyone. Welcome to COVID Impact 360 Conversations. I'm your host, Larry Cole, and today I have best selling author, Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. And Jacob, how are you?
Doing fantastic. I live over in Hawaii. We moved here about 25 years ago when child number five went to college. And aloha, everybody. I'm doing great. And by the end of the show, you will know what you need to get your life back and feel great as well.
That's precisely why this channel exists, is to talk about long COVID, really. I think for the people that are listening today, you're a best selling author of several books. The book today that kind of how I found you as your executive assistant, sent me and I immediately turned it right back onto her, and I said, I would really like to talk to Jacob about this book. And the name of the book is, You Can Heal from Long COVID, which I believe, because I've had long COVID. And the co-authors, Mary J. Showman. Did I get her last name correct? Is she the co-author,
Showman,
or one of the? Yeah,
co-author.
fantastic. So let's. I think a great place to start is pre-pandemic. What were you doing, Jacob? Like, what's your background?
Well, basically, in 1975, I was in medical school. My dad was dead, so I was paying my own way. Worked as a nurse in Children's Hospital, paid my way through college, which I finished in a little under 3 years. And it just was kind of rolling through at the speed, and I came down with a nasty post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome. There was no name for it back then, but it knocked me out of medical school and left me homeless for a good part of the year. So since
Well,
1975, the main focus of my life has been researching, writing, and teaching about effective treatments for this condition. Long COVID is simply one more form of post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. This is not something new. Like I say, I had it almost 50 years ago. This is incredibly treatable. We have enough understanding of what's going on to proceed with getting you well, while more basic science research will take about 30 to 40 years to agree on how to even define and the basic underlying things of the disease. You can get well now. This is what I've been doing for the last 50 years now.
so along comes the pandemic, and you were already in Hawaii by then.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there was the history, as I had come to know it from posting every single day about this, was that I first started seeing the groups showing up that had this post-viral condition, and they were calling themselves long haulers at the time. And they were
Mm-hmm.
the original, well, they were basically Delta infected patients. Where did you start to see the similarities between your past and this thing that we came to understand as being long COVID? When did you start to dig into that real hard, in the COVID world?
It didn't take long. I mean, we've seen this for so many different viruses, Epstein-Barr, polio. There's literally dozens of infections. So I was writing about long COVID and long haulers within 6 months of the onset of COVID. It was pretty obvious pretty quickly what was going on. Still is getting more and more obvious every day.
And the idea of writing a book, what was the genesis of writing that book so that it was a little bit more specific to long COVID and those conditions?
Well, my fourth edition of From Fatigue Fantastic, which is like a textbook on these conditions, came out right about the time that long COVID started hitting. And I told Penguin, my publisher, I said, we need to add long COVID in this. And they said, it's too late. It's in the editing process and the whole thing. So Mary approached me and said, hey, we really need to do a book on this specific to long COVID. And she's right. So much of the information is in my earlier bestseller, From Fatigue to Fantastic. On those who want a much more detailed thing, you may find yourself going back to that book. But because of the brain fog, a lot of people want something short, sweet, and simple. And that's what You Can Heal from Long COVID is. It's just an easy read that helps you understand, oh, this is what's going on. Here's what I need to do. Boom, 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 boom to recover. Here's how to tell what I need to do. So it happened because Mary contacted me. She's an old friend. Her thyroid group has over 1 million people in it. She's one of the main
A
thyroid advocates on
million
the country,
people. Oh,
on the planet. Yeah, she had
yeah.
a very large following, and I respect her a lot. And when she said, "Yeah, let's do this book," and like, sure. And it didn't take long to write it. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of like writing it was quick. And doing the research needed to understand it. Well, that's, I mean, we've done 8 studies on effective treatment of post-viral chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. Written 3 medical textbook chapters and a number of other things. It's, the writing it was easy. The researching what was needed, that's what took the time, and that I've already done.
So, starting at the top, can you give me your high level definition of COVID, long COVID? Like, what?
Okay,
How would you explain it
well,
to somebody that knows
long COVID,
nothing about it?
okay. Basically, what happens with numerous infections, many of these bugs don't have the ability to make their own energy. They don't have mitochondrial energy furnaces. They have to come and board the ship, get into your cells, and they hijack your body's energy production system to reproduce. Your body's learned to say, it shuts down the furnaces and basically says, we're going to starve you. And then the battle begins for who can last longer. Now, normally, you starve the infection, your immune system comes in and kicks butt, and the infection's gone, and a week later, whatever, you're feeling better. But what happens if there's little particles left of the virus, the spike protein? RNA is still, and the different proteins are still there. The body never knows that the infection's gone, so it keeps your energy furnaces shut down, thinking the infection is long-term and ongoing. Trips a circuit breaker in your brain called the hypothalamus, controls sleep, hormones, temperature regulation, autonomic function, and you're off to the races.
So, you identify somebody who matches
Mm-hmm.
the symptoms and the condition of long COVID. What begins that conversation with them? How do you begin the idea of managing their personal aspects of long COVID? What are you looking for, and then how do you develop your practice from there?
So I retired from patient care after 50 years in medicine about 2 years ago. My focus now is teaching. But when I'm talking to people, the question is, I feel lousy since I had the COVID. Even in general, they say I'm exhausted. I ask them a simple
Yeah.
question: do you have brain fog? I ask them, can you get a good night's sleep? Do you have widespread pain? If in addition to fatigue, you got any one or two of those other symptoms, you probably have the process we were talking about. We call it long COVID, long haulers, post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome, or fibromyalgia. You can call it a donkey. I don't care what you call it. This is a
Yeah.
process that's
Yeah. I
going
agree.
on. Then what I look at is this is a cascade. You have the energy crisis, you tripped a circuit breaker. Well, is that triggering thyroid, adrenal, and other hormone problems? Is it triggering POTS? Is your immune system going haywire because of the PEA levels not being adequate and you have sensitive to everything? What I look at is what subsets do you now fall into that need to be taken care of to set everything right and get your body back in control and doing well again.
So that's identified. What does treatment look like? Or as I've talked to many people, not many, because there isn't a whole lot of Jacobs running around. You may think there is, but there isn't. There isn't a lot of people that understand this well enough to manage the process. So what what are the functions in the management side? Like what do you do with somebody?
Okay.
Like,
So,
go ahead.
well, once you understand what's going on, so a simple acronym to help organize treatment, because there are hundreds of treatments you can talk about depending on what subset of the condition you have. But the acronyms shine: sleep, hormones and hypotension, infections and immunity, nutrition, and small e, exercise is able. You don't want to push a heavy exercise because the post-exertional malaise will leave you bedridden, but you don't want to decondition either.
I love that. That's I've been around a while around this, and I've never heard shine. Can you repeat that one more time? I'm serious. I really like that. That's tremendous. Shine.
Yep, to restore energy production, sleep, hormones and hypotension, that's POTS basically, infections and immunity, inflammation, nutritional support, and just enough exercise to prevent deconditioning.
Fantastic. Because I recognize the individual things you're talking about, but that acronym really pulls them together.
Thank
You're
you.
more into you're more into teaching now, as you say. I recognize from what I do, and not just podcasting, but in just being an advocacy period, that there is not many places that long COVID patients can go to get specific treatment or specific management of their symptoms. And so how do you teach people? Like do you do classes? Do you do online, or do people come to you? Do you help them develop clinics?
The book, I've done that, but the economics, I don't like getting involved in the corporate part. I'm happy to leave that to other people. My job's teaching.
Sure.
The book, if you just start with the book, You Can Heal from Long COVID, you will know what you need to do to get well. A lot of this, because to me, the key things about treatments, are they effective? Are they safe? Are they affordable? And are they accessible? Those are the four key
Yes.
things you need to look at.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm going to prefer a natural remedy that's over the counter to an expensive prescription when I can. And most of the time, you can get well using these things. So many of the treatments are available without prescription. The book will guide you. I actually hold US patents for computerized physician. I made it 30 years ago or so for people with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. So they could go
right.
online, fill in a questionnaire, plug in the pertinent blood tests. It would tell them exactly, okay, in your case, here are the key things. And then to say, here's what you need to do. And you made that free just because think about it as this game. You have a system that really has no interest to speak of in CFS and fibromyalgia or long COVID. It's very complex. The insurance companies will not pay the doctors. The doctors will end up getting attacked by the medical boards. It's not something that is attractive for doctors to go into. Most doctors who are in the field is because they or a family member had it.
Yeah.
So
You're absolutely right.
there's actually there's actually a free computer program online. It's called the Energy Analysis Program at energyanalysisprogram.com. It's free. We charged for it initially, but people wrote back and said, I'm on Medicaid. I can't afford anything. I have no money. And my wife and I just said, okay, we'll make it free to the public so anybody can do it. It'll give you a really good start. Or just like I say, read the book. It will give you a really good idea. Now, most of the time, the things that are over the counter and natural, you can start on your own. The prescriptions, those are things that you'll kind of tease out the different things from the book that apply to you. And then you ask your doctor for them one or two at a time. You don't go with a list of here's 8 things that you're not familiar with. But the simpler thing, if you find holistic physicians, the website F like Frank, M like Mary.org, Institute for Functional Medicine, that has probably over 1,000 holistic doctors. They may know bits and pieces of Shine, but they're going to be much more familiar and comfortable with it than most doctors who are really not trained at all in this condition. They're well meaning, but there's no expensive medicine here, and there's no money being spent pushing that expensive medicine to teach doctors about these things. It's just, no bad people. It's just a system that doesn't work very well.
Yeah. See, I was a part of a committee that, starting back at the beginning of last summer, or the summer just passed here, and we were developing
Mm-hmm.
a consensus definition of what is long COVID. And I bring this up because we're still sitting in a bit of the dark ages when it comes to trying to develop these definitions, mainly because you can't really take a test. I know of companies that are trying to develop significant testing capability so that somebody could say definitively that you have post-viral. But what's your experience in the testing world right now? Actually, I'll ask this a different way. I know that most people with long COVID are self-diagnosed with long COVID. It wasn't like they went to a doctor and the doctor said to them, "Oh, by the way, you've got long COVID, or you have fibromyalgia, or you have, you know." So it's really left this gray area of treatment and management, because in the Western world we really don't even have it defined yet. Never mind, here's this test. Do you have opinions around that?
Yes, number one, the tests are pretty useless right now. Even if they were
Yeah.
reliable, which some are and some are not, um, I can get more information. You simply use the American College of Rheumatology diagnostic criteria for fibromyalgia. You can go on my website at vitality101.com, click step 2, which is a free quiz that will tell you if you have CFS or fibromyalgia. And whether it's from COVID or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Take the quiz, see if you have it. That's as reliable as a $700 test and all these other things. Now, people say, well, but I need a test so my insurance company will believe me. Your insurance company will not believe you if God or this whatever science, it doesn't matter what science you have. They will just ignore it. They don't want to pay for what you've got. And they don't have to, as long as doctors will sit there and go, oh, well, you're just probably depressed. They can find experts
Yeah,
that they can
yeah,
pay to say, you're not disabled. Sorry, I've seen this for 50 years in medicine now. So you don't need the expensive testing. The testing is important to determine what treatment you need, not for the diagnosis.
yeah. There is some significant chicken and egg stuff going on here. The insurance or disability acts around different governments around the world have not caught up to the fact that there are hundreds of millions of people with these post-viral conditions. It's no longer a handful of people. It's no longer a small cohort. It's a significant portion of the world. So productivity is being hit. So there's a lot of pressure going on to the insurance companies, onto governments to reword their medical disability. But it hasn't occurred yet in the numbers that people wish it would. So yeah, there's an economic side to all of this. I I agree that, well, not I don't agree. I find it fascinating that you don't believe that the test is the most important part here. It's that you have it, and here's what you can do to get well. I actually find that refreshing, so that they're not stuck in that world of I can't take a
Let me
test, so
clarify.
therefore I
You
don't know what I
don't
have.
need the test to make the diagnosis. You do need an
So
extensive testing to determine how to optimally treat the disease. Okay. Well, since Larry I think, is dropped off, we'll go ahead and I'm going to see if he comes back in. Otherwise, I'll come back into myself a little bit. But again, the key thing is that if you have any persistent symptoms from COVID and you're 3 months out, then technically you meet the diagnostic criteria for long COVID. It's really that simple. The other testing maybe will help your family to understand. Your doctor will ignore it, and the insurance company will ignore it. So, Larry, I've just been giving a little information while you're off the air, just in case, about testing and stuff to the viewers.
my whole internet just crashed. I don't know what happened. That's the first time it's ever happened doing this.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
and it's all good. So I was talking about the testing. Like I say, the testing. If you have any persistent symptom that's worse or started with the COVID, and you're 3 months out, you have long COVID. That's as simple as the definition. The definition is sadly almost useless from a research point of view. It's kind of like saying if you have anything that happened after an electric car crash, you have electric car crash syndrome. See, that's nice, but how are you going to base a study about treating everybody with hip fractures and a bloody nose and a cardiac heart contusion? You're going to and punctured lung. You're going to treat them all the same way in the same group. Nothing will work. It's the definite. We don't even have the definitions for them to do proper treatment research yet. So, and it sounds like you're working with some of the groups that was working on that. So you got a better insight into well, how can we make everybody happy and be politically correct versus what's really needed to do effective research.
Yeah. Well, the groups that I was involved with on the testing side, these are all fairly new biotechs,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not just working on biomarkers. They're working on measuring blood, measuring well, it's really a system of trying to come up with a baseline with a person,
Mm-hmm.
and then comparing that baseline over a period of time. And what does that baseline look like as you're moving up and down? When I say this is all not radically new, but very new, it's not ready for prime time. But they're very serious companies at what they're doing. But this is going to be a long time. I think that part of your experience with all of this is this takes time. None of this happens quickly. And that's part of the impatience of the world right now. They want answers right now, not realizing that
Larry, you
this is
also
all
have to
new.
look at the
Not
economics.
the
And
yes,
if there's an
yeah,
expensive
there,
medication
yeah, good
that
point.
will be, hey, this $24,000 medication, well, now if we have a test, we can prove it and force the insurers to pay for it. The pharmaceutical companies, the NIH budget was about $12 million a year for fibromyalgia. Um, when 3 new medications were approved for fibromyalgia, they were spending $210 million a year advertising, promoting, and creating a market. These are the economics. Right now, you have a new test that comes in. Who are you going to use it for? To get the insurers to cover disability? They're going to say we see nothing.
Yeah, you're very true. Like it would be very hard to not be cynical.
I've been in this field 50
In
years.
my view. Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen this game play. I
fair
have
enough.
seen this game played with numerous tests already. So I'll take it at the end and say, okay, here's what's going on. When there's an expensive treatment that the test can justify, so there's a big economic interest pushing it, it will get through. Until then, it will be ignored.
I don't think we can talk without actually talking. We can't conclude our conversation without talking about the complexity of COVID, though. How I'm from the side of the street that really believes that this is terribly complex. You know, the genome string on COVID is something never been seen before with all the scientists I know, and I hang around some significant scientists. They haven't seen this before, and they don't have the answers that we would hope they would have. What's your opinion around complex this is, and then how do you place that against treatment? Like, because we seem to be always chasing our tail with
It's a little bit like the 5 blind men and the elephant. I don't know if you know that story. 5 men were walking down
yes, I
a
do.
road, and they come across an elephant, and one says, "Oh, this is a snake," and the other one puts its arm around, "No, this is a tree trunk." And so what you're doing is this is a fire which has many wisps of smoke coming off of it. If you try to chase every wisp of smoke, oh, you've got your arm something, it's POTS. No, you've got these 47 different immune markers that are changing. Oh, it's this marker, this marker, this marker. No, substance P is no. Okay, but on the other hand, if you look and you go, there's a fire there that all of these things of smoke are coming off of, you can put out the fire. So you need to treat the overall things. You need to treat the POTS. You need to treat the sleep. You need to treat the pain. You need to treat all these things. And my book goes through how to do that. Shine will do that. But more importantly, you need to restore energy production, which is what Shine is all about. So your body can, and take a couple of these wisps of smoke and blow them away. And then your body, with enough energy, will restore its balance and can take care of all these different things. You don't have to chase every wisp of smoke from the fire. On the other hand, what the research doing that you were describing, which is the basic science work, is critical. They're looking at hundreds of biomarkers before and after, pre and post, to look at what's the change. And what you will see is they will find 80 different biomarkers that are off. And each researcher will say, I've got the answer. It's this biomarker. No, it isn't. That's one wisp from the fire. But when you look at all these 80 different things that are changing, now you can say, oh, I see patterns for what's going on here. I see the immune dysfunction. I see the autonomic dysfunction. I see the mitochondrial dysfunction. Oh, okay. Now you've got the bigger picture. You can start doing the patterns, and now you can target treatments. But like I say, having read this book and for 50 years and having written the books on it, and having treated thousands of people with these conditions, and having had it myself to where I was homeless, I was crippled from it. If you do the Shine protocol, you'll get better. Now there are numerous other treatments you can throw in the rest. I'm not saying that those don't work, but I'm saying you can get to the core issues. And can we take a little bit of time and just look at Shine so people can see what they can do now?
So, a bit of a parallel question to everything we're talking about. I fight misinformation and disinformation every day. I'm a big believer, even though I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor or nothing like that. A big part of my advocacy is about disinformation. What are the areas that you're most concerned with disinformation? Where are the areas that are causing the most amount of damage when it comes to knowledge?
The most amount of damage is the implication that we don't know what's wrong with you, so you're crazy. 85% of people, when they go to the doctor, they don't get the diagnosis of long COVID or CFS or fibromyalgia. The doctor implies to them that they're crazy. And they apply it even more horribly to the family and insurance companies. I don't know what's wrong with this person, so they're crazy. The person is getting gaslighted. This is the key misinformation. There's also the thing where there's an attempt, you need to look at what level of research is needed to be okay with something. Now, we use a level of research that literally costs $400 million to $2 billion per treatment to get through the regulatory process in this country to be able to say that something is effective for treating a disease, which means that anything that is not expensive cannot make it through that process. And if you take a look at many of the committees and groups that you work with, the misconception that you need a study with 1,000 people and the p-value, so your p's are and the confidence intervals are certain, you need all this stuff. If you have a treatment that is toxic and expensive and new, yes, you need that level. But you can find that multiple smaller studies, even 30, 40, 50 people, 100 people, that have the p-values, even if they're not so massive that the confidence intervals are there. If it's cheap and safe and the studies show it works, that's reasonable data for cheap and safe natural remedies that you can get anywhere. So there's a lot of stuff that I look at it and I just kind of shake my head. But, so if you ask what are all the areas of misinformation, yeah, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. But having seen people go through this, Larry, let me know, because people may be looking at this and they may say, well, that's nice, but if what Dr. this T or Jacob or this asshole or whatever is saying is correct, or fill in whatever words they want, why aren't all the doctors talking about it? Okay, well, because what we are taught in medicine, we're predominantly from the pharmaceutical industry, and they're holding a space for an expensive medication. Everybody's well-meaning. They are all well-meaning. I have not met anybody out there who's not. So if people are saying, oh, well, he's just selling stuff, here's the simple thing. Everything that I recommend, you can pretty much get by prescription or on Amazon, in which case I won't make a penny. There's two products I have, and one that on Amazon, the Shine Ribose, got a different ribose. Everything else I'll talk about, I won't make a penny. They say, well, you're going to make a buck on that book. I'll give that to charity. Okay. So this way, it's now instead of he's selling me stuff. If you want to buy it on my website and support my work, thank you. Endfatigue.com, great. But if you're worried that I'm just selling this stuff, go on Amazon, get it all there. And you can say, ha ha ha, I cut him out. That bastard's not making a penny. I'm going to get well anyway. And I'm going to say, go for it, please. So there are ways that you can, as a buyer beware, kind of get a sense. And it's not necessarily, I don't think there's almost anybody out there that's really just trying to rip people off. Mostly it's people who are well-meaning, including the people who are saying there's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing you can do. They want the evidence that they don't realize has been tailored to create a space for only very expensive pharmaceuticals. That's a long answer
Yeah,
to.
it's no, it's I respect all answers. Like I just know that I talk to a wide ranging group of people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're anywhere from very hardcore vaccine to very anti-vaccine to hardcore testing to as you're saying right now. This is not new. That you can develop your own methods of discovering what's wrong with you, and then what can be done about it. I want to get the full gamut, but it has to be done respectfully. And I see too much finger pointing, and I see too much them against us type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff going on, and I I, I don't. I think it causes the community to be confused. What's happening in the United States is happening in Canada, where I live, is happening in the UK, it's happening in Europe, it's happening in Asia, and it's happening in the Far East. It's not like these things are different wherever you go. The
Oh.
same issues are applied. People want to get
Mm-hmm.
well, they don't know how to get well, and so that's what I push. Go ahead.
So what I'm hoping for people to get is, like, say, they're all good people. I've not met anybody in the field. There's different points of view. So what will help you understand as a viewer is that there is a group that wants just it has to be the very hard science, the very basic science work, which again will take 30 years because we don't even have a definition that's workable yet. Electric car crash syndrome, you can't do a study with anybody who has any symptoms after a car crash. It's just, you can't define the study groups. And you have clinical research, which is not the $20 million per study, but is good research that is valid. But many, you know, it's a different point of view of what's required. To me, clinical research that's well done is valid, especially if something is safe and low cost. And the research shows it to be effective. But it's just simply a different point of view. So that may help you understand as you listen to different people where they're coming from on the science spectrum. And then you have people with no science background who's just saying, God, whatever they're saying.
Yeah. I try to be very clear when I'm talking that people understand that I'm not from a science background, and that isn't even my role. My role is to be around the people that have the background, like yourself, and try to get
Mm-hmm.
the story out. Because people are having a hard time finding resources to even treat themselves. Like they don't know where to turn. They don't know what to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hang around this business long enough, you find that there's charlatans out there. There are people out there that they don't want to cause harm. They are causing harm with their attitude. And somehow, we live in this bifurcated world right now, and it's hard to get around the politics of being sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to live in a world of healthcare that was all about getting well, but people right now are having a hard time just politically deciding, is that person worthy of treatment? So that goes back to the gaslighting. Yeah.
Larry, can I give some simple places to begin for people?
Sure, absolutely. Please do. Please.
So, you know, I'm happy to send you a free information sheet. My email address, if you have a piece of paper, write it down, pen, fatigue, FATIGUE, doc, that's DOC. So fatiguedoc@gmail.com. Just ask for the long COVID information sheets. Start with a postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And I will send you 2 simple tests you can do at home. They're free. You can do it on your own. They will diagnose as reliably as a tilt table test whether you have it. Then treatments are not hard once you know.
Right.
The doctors are not trained in it. But simple things like increased salt and water, compression stockings. There's a list of 4 or 5 medications. There's a bunch of natural things you can do on your own. And so I'll send you that information sheet. Start with a good multivitamin. There's a HRG80 red ginseng. We did a study of 188 people with post-viral and other forms of chronic fatigue syndrome. Energy went up over 60% on average, stamina almost 80%. There's simple things you can do. Cut down sugar, increase salt, increase protein in the diet. I'm happy to send you the information sheet. Just email fatiguedoc@gmail.com, ask for the long COVID, and I'll send you a couple information sheets. If you're sensitive to everything, note that. I'll send you that information sheet. If you have shortness of breath, let me know that. I'll send you that information sheet. But what these things can
Fantastic.
do is start to break it into categories.
So do you have any final comments? Like, do you have any final
Yes.
thoughts about this? Go ahead, please.
So here's the thing. As I mentioned, my whole life, I knew when I was 8 years old what I wanted to do. I was going to become, to help people who were sick, which meant being a doctor in those days. And I
Mm-hmm.
would work, my dad was dead. I worked my way through college and med school, as I mentioned. And here I get post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome, and suddenly I'm non-functional, homeless, and have to drop out of med school. And many of you are going through similar experiences where your life has been crushed. But I will tell you, being 50 years on the other side of that experience, it turned out to be a real blessing because it taught me to get a sense of what's important to me, teaching people how to recover, teaching people how to get a life they love, to be authentic, to empower them. That's important to me. The illness taught me to do that for myself. It taught me to say no to things I thought I should say yes to be a good boy, kind of a thing, to get approval. The illness will turn out, the superpower you get from this illness, so to speak, is authenticity. It teaches you to say no to things that you really don't want to do because you have no choice. As you get well, continue to do that. Leave those things you don't enjoy that you don't have to do. They're not going to get arrested or homeless if you don't do. Leave those go. Don't fight them. Just withdraw your attention from them
Right.
and focus on those things you love. And you will look back and realize, I'm feeling pretty good and I have a life I love. And that's the gift of this illness. It's not a curse. It looks like it right now. But you can get to the other side of it and have it turn out to be a real gift.
Well, thank you. Wise words. You carry a message that is very different from what I'm used to, and I mean that in the most respectful, like in a very cool manner. I like the message you have.
Thank you.
And I thank you for your time today. And I apologize for the glitch in my internet. I have no idea what happened there, but I can get it spliced back together, so I'm not worried about that. So thank you, Doctor.
Well,
I appreciate your time today.
Larry, appreciate everything you're doing. I know you're taking a lot of broad, different perspectives. It's like meeting with a bunch of different religions.
Yeah.
And these are all good
sure
people, and a couple maybe that aren't, but they all have a totally different world they're living in. And how do you make sense of that and present that?
Yeah.
So I respect what you're doing too.
Well, yes. And, I mean, not to belabor that point, but like that's kind of one of the reasons why I started the channel was I wanted different opinions. I wanted different people. I just didn't want the same questions over and over and over again. And then, so it's the different personalities. I guess that's where I'm going with this. It should be about a conversation. It should be about getting well.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're doing it respectfully, then we're doing it the right way. So thank you again. And I will, I'd like to do a follow-up sometime because I think there's more I can pull out of this.
We can, if you want to talk about the SHINE protocol. We talked about kind of the background, the politics, and the social aspects, but we never really talked about the SHINE protocol. I'm happy to come on and say, okay, simple thing. Do you have tired, achy brain fog, can't sleep? You got even with the hundreds of other things, you've got this. What do you do?
Right.
And sleep. How do you do? We talked about the hypotension, the orthostatic intolerance of POTS, blah, 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 very, very briefly. But, let's just take each, and I can tape it now if you want. We can do a second segment and just do SHINE if you want to. Or we can come back another day when the internet spirits are a little less favorable.
Yeah, well, I would like, I mean, now that I've heard this, I would like to do a show on SHINE.
Okay.
Just SHINE. Because, I mean, that's something that somebody takes away and they can put into their life. And I really like the cost of it. That's very intriguing to me. So, yeah, let's get together with a new when I got, I guess, better signal, and let's have a brand new show. So, and I'll be in touch with you over.
That's perfect. I'm happy to do so. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Okay.
Aloha.
You bet, and thank you. Bye-bye. Aloha.